Hi, Kathy. Well, welcome to the show. We're on air now already. So let me go ahead and read a little bit about you. First of all, I want to say thank you for your patience and welcome everyone to a good place where truth and integrity meet. Every week, I introduce you to thought provoking and compelling premier educators, politicians, whistleblowers, best-selling authors, journalists, activists, and celebrities. And they all have one thing in common: they are people of truth and integrity, and many are considered modern day heroes. And today, I have with me Kathy Barnette. I'm very honored to have her. And she's a conservative Black mother and wife. She's a veteran, a former adjunct professor of corporate finance, a conference speaker, and a conservative political commentator. She served her country proudly for 10 years in the Armed Forces Reserves, where she was accepted into Officer Candidacy School. Her corporate career includes working with two major financial institutions and in corporate America. Kathy sat on the board of Pregnancy Crisis Center for 5 years. And we are here today to discuss her book titled Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, and her congressional campaign. So welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so one of my first questions is this your first time running for Congress?
It is my first time running for any office at all. I never intended to run for office. It most certainly was not something on my bucket list of things to do. I was quite happy with being a primarily stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooling my kids for the past 6 years. This year being the end of our sixth year, and I'm an author, so I was authoring, writing my book, and doing speaking engagements, speaking on mainstream media, and I was very content with the direction of my life. And then one day, I happened to be sitting on the floor homeschooling my daughter in geography, and the thought hit me: what in the world are my babies going to inherit? Because the nation is quickly being redefined to something that is literally un-American. And that started, a seed was planted that started me on this path that I find myself on today.
Okay, well, that's really incredible journey, it sounds like. And what I'd also like to discuss, of course, is your book. And it's your first book, and it's titled again, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. And can you tell everybody a little bit about this book and what topics it covers?
It covers a plethora of topics, actually. Actually, my book is reading like prophecy right now. It is a journey, it is my journey off the Democrat plantation, and the journey that I went through, the experiences that I had, and just looking at the various narratives. One being white privilege, for example. Another being, if you're Black, you must vote Democrat. So examining those particular narratives all throughout the book, as well as a couple of other things. But I say the book is reading like prophecy right now because I submitted the book in November of last year with no idea that we would be experiencing, the mayhem, the rioting, the foolishness, the chaos all throughout our nation. But one of the things I said, which was a central theme throughout the book, is that as a Black person growing up in the manner in which I did, I had a front row seat at looking at failed liberal policies that have the opportunity to fester and take hold in predominantly Black communities. And those same failed liberal policies have left the Black community broken, and bruised. And I let out a clarion call that what I was watching with that liberal, white liberal policies are being repackaged and submitted to the broader American culture. It's the exact same failed policies that have devastated the Black community. They're simply being repackaged and presented to the broader American community, but that they will have the exact same effect. And that is what we're watching right now. The mayhem, the violence, the chaos, the intimidation that we see running rampant through cities like Portland, Washington, or right across the street in Lafayette Park from the White House, that level of violence and chaos and foolishness, it happens on an almost nightly basis in most urban cities. But for better or for worse, it was contained in those cities. And so for the majority of Americans, they never really paid attention to it. Yes, we saw it, and no, we didn't like the double-digit shootings we were seeing coming out of Chicago. However, it was contained. But now, because liberals are in a position of control and power right now, specifically over these narratives that are running rampant all throughout our nation, we are seeing what happens when they get in control of something. They bring chaos.
Hmm. And what are some of the examples that support that, other than what you stated?
I mean, as I just said, I mean, look at across our nation, across 30 or more different cities, we're seeing chaos. We're seeing the tearing down of our nation. We're seeing the chance of defunding and abolishing our police. We're seeing our police officers being maligned and bullied and intimidated. We're seeing double digit, triple digit in some places violence year over year, like in Chicago, like in New York, even here in Philadelphia. Last time I looked, the crime rate was up 64%. I think in New York, I saw something like over 200% at a particular time. So all of those things, the evidence is the fact that we are, I mean, we have rioting and looting, and people are being told by predominantly liberal mayors and politicians to just, hands off, stand clear, allow them to do what it is that they're doing, which is rioting and looting. And this is not because Republicans or conservative thought is in the forefront of our culture right now. It is because we have uh, liberal left narratives that are guiding our culture.
Hmm. And I'm just curious, and this is changing the topic just a little bit. Have members of the Black community, do they seem to oppose your stance for running for as a Republican Black conservative woman?
Most, I mean, it's really unfortunate. So depending on which poll you're watching, there are a
Mm.
number of polls that are saying that the Black support for the president is, rising and continuing to rise. I believe that there are more Blacks who will be voting for the president and who will not be voting for Democrats all up and down the ballot this year. But you will probably
Mm.
never know it because it is. It's not a popular thing to be Black, openly conservative, and outwardly supportive of the policies of this president. You have to have very thick skin. It is not for the weak of heart to be Black and to be openly supportive of
Are you there?
the principles. So I think
Mm.
there are far more who are. In agreement with what it is that we're talking about. But then on the other side of the coin, I completely understand why most people believe if you're Black, you must vote Democrat. I write all throughout my book that I was born into the Democrat Party, just like I was born into brown skin. There was never a point of separation or conversation. It just was a part of my identity. And it wasn't until I was in college, I started kind of examining the various assumptions about what it means to be Black, that I began the process of walking off what those of us who are Black and conservative call the Democrat plantation. And so it started with that process of just kind of examining the various policies and what their impact has been. But I completely understand why most people believe that if you're Black, you're Democrat. Not only white people who believe it, but Black
Mm.
people who, if you're Black, you must vote Democrat. Otherwise, somehow you're betraying your race. And so we will see. We will see how all of this pans out in November.
Hmm. And I guess I had a couple more questions before you go. What do you think, you discussed Trump, and Trump had in your book, and it says, basically that Trump has done more for Blacks than any other president since Lincoln. So what are you pointing to for the listeners who haven't had a chance to read your book? What do you think he's done for Black America?
As I go and talk and have these discussions with people, and specifically to the Black community, is that we have to take into consideration that for the Black community, we have been Democrats' most loyal constituents. There is no other group of people who is more loyal to the Democrat Party than the Black community. We have been actually voting Democrat in very large numbers for the past 56 years, ever since Lyndon B. Johnson came up with his Great Society idea. And so we have been very loyal to them. And so the question that you must then ask yourself is, what exactly have we gotten for our loyalty? We know what the Democrat Party gives. They cannot get in the White House without at least securing 85 to 90% of our vote. But what exactly have we in the Black community gotten? Our streets are some of the worst streets. Our schools are still some of the worst schools. High unemployment, very dangerous communities. And so you have in low home ownership, high fatherless rates, abortion rate for the Black community, just, anathema on a whole different level. And so you have to ask yourself, what exactly have we gotten? And what you come up with is we've got nothing but a tremendous amount of pandering. And then you have someone like President Trump who comes in and he asks a very legitimate question: what do you have to lose? Hence the title of my book. What do you have to lose to the Black community to give me a try? We have been manipulated by the Democrat Party. So what in the world do we have to lose by giving someone else a try at this? And what we've seen over the past 3.5 years prior to COVID is that President Trump has addressed every single issue the Black community has ever brought to either side of the political aisle. Whether you're talking about prison reform, you have the First Step Act. Last year, we started with the Second Step Act. Whether we're talking about unemployment, the Black community was experiencing the lowest unemployment rate in history. Not only the lowest unemployment rate, but even the spread between white unemployment and Black unemployment was shrinking for the very first time. That is a really great indicator of income inequality being lessened. So that happened under President Trump. You pick an issue that the Black community has brought before either side of the aisle. Unlike Democrats, President Trump did not pander to the Black community. And unlike the typical Republican establishment, President Trump wasn't placating the Black community. He actually brought tangible results and policies to the Black community. That is what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. And, you're just such a courageous woman, and I admire you for that. What's on your horizon?
This election.
Yeah, that too.
It is going very, very well. I am the first Black person to ever run for Congress in the county in which I am running in. Montgomery County is the second wealthiest county in the state of Pennsylvania. It's a wonderful district that I hope to represent very soon. But we, have a horrible representative. Um, Very liberal. She has proven to be a bobblehead for Nancy Pelosi and the policies of the left, and we can do so much better than what we've gotten. And in fact, it is showing. The enthusiasm for our campaign is palpable. It's been very interesting. It's been very encouraging. And I will encourage your listeners to go to Kathy Barnette for Congress.com and to donate. Whether you live in my area or not is of no major consequence, because we need to get rid of Nancy Pelosi and we need to win these winnable seats. And this seat is proving to be a winnable seat.
Mm-hmm. And your website again is Kathy Barnette for Congress.com. And people out there, if you're listening, we need to support women like this, just people in general, whether I don't want to put a gender on it. You need to be supported. And I just appreciate you again. That's all I can say. And your Twitter handle is at Kathy for Truth. It's KATHY, the number 4, truth. And I think I have one more question. Do you want to make a quick comment on the COVID and how that might affect your campaign right now?
I mean, COVID is proving to affect so many different aspects of our lives. COVID is a very serious virus, and I believe it is especially serious for those who have a compromised immune system. However, unfortunately, what we're also experiencing with COVID is that it is being politicized. So, COVID in and of itself would be devastating enough, especially when you look at the number of people who have lost loved ones, or the number of lives that have been impaired, or the number of jobs that have been lost, and the wealth of our nation that has just been spent and gone and kind of spun into the wind. That would be devastating enough. But in addition to that, is that we're seeing these liberal Democrats not allowing a crisis to go to waste, and they're exploiting the American people. They're coming down with very draconian, authoritative dictates that is not in line with science. CDC is recommending that schools reopen, and yet in my district, we have a number of schools that have decided to go 100% virtual. It's just ridiculous how it is being politicized. Not only the schools, but our children. And if anyone should be essential, it should be our teachers. And if any place should be considered an essential, it should be our schools. But instead, we have those who are very weak, who recognized that my candidate, my opponent, as well as Joe Biden, got the passion of two tick mites and couldn't draw flies to our outside barbecue. And so they're looking for other ways to drum up excitement. And unfortunately, as we have talked about, Democrats exploiting or politicizing race relations in this nation, they're also politicizing COVID.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you for coming, and I've enjoyed this interview, and I wish you the best of luck, and we'll speak soon, I hope.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.